After the planking has been completed, it's time to do the final fairing. Oh boy. In the past, I have always done the fairing with a high-speed grinder. This is pretty quick, it makes a lot of dust, and it's a lot of hard work. I go back then and finish it with a hand plane. Today, we're really not allowed to make that kind of dust and let it blow all over the place. We have to keep the dust confined and clean it up. When the boatyard wooded the bottom of Chubasco, they had to build a complete visqueen tent around the whole boat. This made for a very foggy, dusty environment, not really suitable for fairing. When we fair a boat, we need to have good light and be able to step back and see what we're doing. I decided to try something new and use hand power planes to fair the bottom. We first faired in the scarf joints with a standard power plane. Because with the hand power planes you can attach a vacuum hose, there is virtually no dust at all. The vacuum catches it all. I could see exactly what I was doing, and there was no cleanup at the end of the day. It would be impossible to do a proper fairing job with a standard flat power plane. There are both concave and convex shapes that need to be all planed in. To accomplish the task, I had to modify the power planes. Two of the planes I ground a curve in the blade. This would address the concave areas of the boat. On one of the planes, I shim the back of the sole. This way, the back of the sole and the front of the skill plane would hit before the blade. By adjusting the depth, I would take down just the highs in the flat areas. To shape the convex parts of the boat, I glued a piece of formica onto the sole of the plane. Then with a grinder, I dished it out like the inside of a spoon. I then ground an inside curve into the knives. By carefully adjusting the foot, I could take off just the highs in whatever area of the boat that I was working. Because the power planes leave such a smooth cut, it was very easy for me to step back and see where the highs and lows were. This method of fairing worked out a lot better than I even imagined. After I had finished the planing, we went over the boat with longboards and 80 grit sandpaper. All that had to be done was taking out some mill marks and a few little ridges, and Chubasco was perfectly fair. I really wished I could have done this years ago, but it's only been recently that they came out with the small light power planes with the vacuum attachments. In all fairness, it was still a lot of work, but well worth it. The outside keel strapping you see here was not original to Chubasco's original design or build. We added this in 1982 because the garboards were moving and leaking. This is one of the great things about working in the restoration business for so long. The boats I have worked on and maintained, built by the Hairsoft Manufacturing Company, had this outside keel strapping designed and built into them when they were new. When the boat is heeled and sailing hard, these straps transfer the loads up into the hull. Tension loads on the weather side and compression loads on the leeward side. They greatly ease the loads on the floor-to-frame bolts and the keel bolts themselves. After installing these straps, the joint between the ballast keel and the keel never moved again. When we removed these keel straps to do this rebuild, I got to find out how my work held up over the years. I had used 5200 to bed the keel straps into their mortises. The polyurethane adhesives were fairly new on the market then, and it worked really well. They never leaked at all, the bronze was still shiny, and we had to use a lot of heat on the straps so that the 5200 would give up and we could get them off at all. So of course, we used 5200 to reinstall them this time. The bronze straps that I used inside the frames, however, didn't work out all that well. Instead, this time, we laminated up a heavy layer of fiberglass on the inside of those frames where the keel strapping was bolted. I think this will work out better, and there won't be any corrosion. One of the reasons for this extensive restoration was that the owners wanted to take Chubasco offshore again. They wanted to take her in the Transpac race. This is a 2,800-mile race from California to Hawaii. Chubby was originally built for this regatta in 1939. She had to be seaworthy and stout in all respects for not just the race, but the delivery home. Chubasco was designed and built with a 3/4 inch thick bronze centerboard. It had never been out for a servicing that anyone could remember. The shipyard where we were at was gracious enough to let us dig a hole in their yard so that we could service the centerboard and the rudder. Was a little bit stubborn coming out of there, but we got her out, had the centerboard all sandblasted, powder coated and painted, and then serviced the centerboard trunk. We also had a new worm screw made for the centerboard winch and overhauled that. Chubasco's rudder was built out of teak with all bronze hardware and was still in very good shape. It had become waterlogged over the years, but during the long haul of this restoration project, it had dried out nicely. This was an excellent opportunity to rebuild the rudder. We checked and replaced any compromised fasteners, we rebuilt the trailing edge, we faired the rudder, adjusted the aperture for the new 4-bladed feathering prop. Using epoxy resins, we fiberglassed and faired both sides of the rudder. Then it was all epoxy coated and reinstalled. Most of the team that helped us with this are surfers and were quite familiar with working with fiberglass and composites. Chubasco's bottom was coated with 2 coats of epoxy resin, 5 coats of epoxy barrier coat, and then the bottom paints. Past experience has shown me that this protects the wood completely from saltwater intrusion. The workmanship and level of quality in this restoration far surpassed the workmanship of her original builders. Together with the modern adhesives and coatings that we use, Chubasco may sail on for another 100+ years. This video was brought to you by efforts through the Maritime Preservation Trust. Don't forget to subscribe, and please visit our website.